What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're going to be installing a suspension lift on this Kawasaki Mule. So this is my buddy Aaron's Kawasaki Mule that he uses pretty much all the time for any and everything. You can see it has definitely been used by the bent bumper, but that's Aaron for you. So this is primarily what he uses for events that he does. He owns a brewery, and so he uses this to haul around kegs and other supplies and stuff like that. Like, it's even got some kegs in here right now. But recently we used this to haul people and take supplies and reach out to people that were affected by Hurricane Helene in the western part of North Carolina. And we noticed while we were up there that we were dragging the skids a lot of places because there's not a ton of ground clearance on this unit here. So he bought a suspension lift. It's just a bracket lift. They're pretty simple, but this is the front and this is the rear. I'm not sure of the name brand. I'll put a link in the description below. But basically it comes with all the hardware, the spacers that we have to use, and that's it. So pretty simple. So I'm going to get this thrown up on the lift and we'll start tearing it down. So the first thing that I'm going to do now that I have the weight off of the suspension is use a 17mm impact socket and zip the tires off. Oh, I guess there's washers. That's pretty cool. So the next thing that I'm going to do is take the bolt on the top of the shock here, and it's also a 17mm, and I have to break that loose. It's pretty tight. Alright, now I'm going to take the bolt out, and the shock should come out like this, like so. So now I'm going to take the front side, which is the one with the indentions on both sides, and this is actually going to go, one's going to go in front of this bracket and the other one's going to go in between these brackets. I have these brackets where they need to be, just kind of loosely dangling over there. And so this is when you're going to need this spacer right here. And you're also going to need the supplied bolt and the supplied washer. So like I said, this front bracket goes before this bracket right here, so it's going to go on just like that, and then this washer is going to go in between this, the back of this, and the other bracket. So you're just sandwiching the existing plates with this spacer right here. So just pretend that this spacer is the spacer that's in this shock. So basically what this whole suspension is doing is it's changing the geometry and the angle of this spring so that it's more straight up and down, which is going to push the tires and the suspension further away from the vehicle, which is giving it a lift. And I've seen where people say that these type suspension makes the vehicle ride rougher. Yeah, it can, just because you're changing the factory dynamics of the suspension. So I'm just going to take a little hammer and tap up on that spacer. I don't know if y'all can see. All I did there was just get that spacer lined up. Now I'm going to take the supplied bolt. Once I've got that spacer right there lined up, I'm just going to feed this in. Now I've got to line it up on the back side. So perfect. Sweet. So now I'm going to take this locking nut and I'm going to put on the back of that, just in case you're not comprehending what's going on. So this is the bracket. Oh, focus. So that's everything right there. See that spacer in there? Just like that. So now I'm going to take this shock right here and I'm going to push it inside of this bracket, just like that. And then I'm going to take the factory shock bolt and put that through. Sweet. So now I'm going to get these both torqued down properly. So I have the lift installed, but I can't put the tires on just yet because I have to do a little bit of grinding on the steering stop. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So right here, now that the suspension is more at a degree, this steering stop right there needs to be trimmed, because whenever this gets turned, it's going to contact this lower control arm right there. So I'm just going to take a grinder and just take the edge off. Oop, focus. I'm just going to take a grinder and take that little edge off real quick. So you don't have to cut a lot off, but just enough so that it won't contact right there. All right, that ought to do it. So I have the front tires on, and now I'm going to move to the back and start getting that lift on. So it says in the rear that you can raise the dump bed and do all the lift from up top, and then you don't have to take the tires off, but I am not about to clean this out, so I'm going to do it the hard way. But it looks like it's pretty much the same setup in the rear. So you got your cross member that goes along the frame rails, and it looks like 17mm bolts there. So I'm going to zip both of these out. I don't know if I'm going to take the tires off. I'm going to try to do it without taking the tires off, and then put the plates on, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to reach up behind here, hopefully get that on. Hit it with a 17. Oh my gosh. Got that out. Let's kind of get that out of the way. And I'll do the same thing to the other side. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to slide it inside of this cross member. And then I'm going to take the little spacer and feed that in between right there. That is not even close. Once you get this one close, I'm going to go ahead and take this other bracket and put it right here, just like that. And then I'm going to take this crow's foot and just stick it all the way through. That way I know it won't fall or anything like that. And then I can go ahead and get this one set up, and then I can come back to this one. So just going to line that one up. Got that one lined up. Now I'll take my spacer and slide that up in there. Now I can just take my new bolt, put it right there, and I've got to pull down on this back one, and then I'll get everything sent through and we'll be good. Got that one all lined up, went all the way through perfect. So now I'll slide to this side, the passenger side. I'm just going to feed this through right there. Sweet. I'm going to take the shocks and go ahead and get those on. So I'm just going to kind of compress the suspension. So now I'll take the bolt through like that. And there we go. Now I just have to do the same thing on the opposite side. So now I'm just going to take and go ahead and tighten everything up. I'm not going to fully torque these until it's on the ground, but I'm just going to go ahead and get them in the ballpark. So that's pretty much it for the rear, and that's pretty much it for the whole install. So I am going to lower it down and see how far off my alignment is. Oh, it's big. So here is the finished product, and it is pretty tall. It definitely needs a bigger tire and definitely needs a wheel spacer to come out. But for the most part, I dig it. Look how much ground clearance it has now. It's got a ton of ground clearance. And I know you might be thinking like, man, that's really tall and kind of weird looking, but we're going to be putting a winch on this eventually. We're going to be revisiting that worn out, tired front bumper. And we're probably going to be putting some wheel spacers on just to give it a wider track width, just because whenever I lifted it, it actually brought the suspension down and in a little bit. So it may feel just a little bit more top heavy, and I feel like a different wheel with a different offset will be better, or some wheel spacers if he plans on keeping these wheels. So as you can see, I've got the crash test dummy driving in and around the yard. That way I can get some shots of it. It's still sitting pretty tall, but I think once we get that winch and everything on the front, it'll settle back down. How's it drive, Easton?
Good.
He says it drives still good. I drove it myself before I turned him loose on it, and the alignment was pretty much spot on. I did have to adjust it just a little bit, but for the most part, I didn't really adjust it that much, and it still drives really great. The steering wheel is still straight, and it rides a lot stiffer, but for the most part, I think Aaron's gonna be excited about it. I hope he's okay with Easton driving around the yard though. So we are at the airport here in Spruce Pine, and as you can see, we got people going through clothes. We're about to start taking deliveries. Got the mule up here, And I did straighten that bumper out. All right, so we made it back from the western part of North Carolina, and it is still very devastating what they're going through, but things are getting better. The roads are starting to open back up. Everybody is up there pretty much working their butts off just to get back to some normalcy up there. There's still a lot of people in need, but I feel like we reached a lot of people this weekend, and I'm very thankful for that. Very thankful for my team, the guys, the group that I went with. Everybody worked super hard, and really appreciative of that. Really appreciative of everybody that donated supplies, whether it was camping stuff, heaters, gas, monetary donations. Very appreciative of that. So according to the odometer on the Mule, we put about 160 miles on this bad boy this weekend, and it did flawless. I mean, we were driving 50 miles an hour. It's governed at 50, and it drove everywhere just fine. Going uphill, it would slow down to about 40, but other than that, it ripped the entire weekend. We took supplies, generators, gasoline to different places, went and cut some trees down, stuff like that. Definitely perfect for up there. But anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all watching me put the lift kit on the Mule, and I really appreciate all of my subscribers, everybody that comments. So this week I actually hit 20,000 subscribers, and that's really cool, and I really appreciate all that. Thank y'all for watching. It really means a lot. And my thoughts and prayers still go out to those in the western part of North Carolina and East Tennessee. We'll see y'all in the next one.